Good day, students. Today, we will delve into the second chapter of Carl Jung's The Red Book, where he talks about his personal experience with his soul. Jung's experience reveals many essential insights into the nature of the soul and its role in our lives. Jung describes how he had been wandering for too long in search of himself outside of himself. This is a common experience for many of us. We often look for meaning and purpose in external things like wealth, status, relationships, and achievements, only to find that they don't bring us lasting fulfillment. We can learn from Jung's experience that our true selves are within us, waiting to be discovered. Jung found his soul behind all the events he went through. This means that our experiences, even the difficult ones, are opportunities for us to connect with our soul. The soul is the essence of who we are, and it is always present, waiting for us to awaken to its presence. Jung's soul revealed itself to him in images within other people. This means that the soul is not just an individual experience but is also connected to the collective unconscious. We can find aspects of our soul reflected in others, and we can also help others awaken to their own soul by embodying our own. Jung's soul also climbed out of a dark shaft, which represents the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we have repressed or denied. Our soul can help us integrate these dark aspects of ourselves and bring them into the light, allowing us to live more authentically and fully. Finally, Jung's soul led him on journeys of discovery, revealing truths he had not known before. This means that the soul is a source of wisdom and guidance that can help us navigate life's challenges and find our path. Jung wandered for many years, so long that he forgot that he possessed a soul. This statement highlights the importance of having a connection with our soul. Without it, we may feel lost, purposeless, and disconnected from ourselves and the world around us. The soul represents our innermost being, the essence of who we are, and our connection to something greater than ourselves. When we forget that we possess a soul, we lose touch with our true self and our spiritual nature. Jung then asks where he was during this time and what sheltered him. This question implies that he was in a state of unconsciousness, unaware of his soul and its importance. He wonders what protected him during this time, suggesting that there might be something beyond our physical reality that can guide and protect us. He also feels that his soul must speak through him, suggesting that our soul communicates with us in ways that we may not fully understand. Jung then talks about a child and a maiden that he has seen in his dreams, whom he identifies as his soul. Dreams are a common way that our soul communicates with us, and they often contain symbolic imagery that represents aspects of our inner world. Jung feels ignorant of their mystery, suggesting that our soul is complex and mysterious, and we may never fully understand it. He also asks for forgiveness if he speaks as in a dream or like a drunkard, acknowledging the limitations of language and our ability to express spiritual experiences. Jung's uncertainty about whether he is speaking to God or not is a common experience for many people who are on a spiritual journey. It can be challenging to differentiate between our own inner voice and the voice of something greater than ourselves. However, Jung is certain that he is not deranged or lying to himself. He is speaking from the wound that still bleeds, suggesting that he is speaking from a place of pain and suffering. The wound represents our inner pain, our unresolved emotional experiences, and the limitations that prevent us from connecting with our soul and God. Jung also speaks to the relationship between the individual and the divine, and how this relationship is fundamental to understanding the true self. Jung begins by addressing the divine as a child, a paradoxical term considering the power and all-encompassing nature of the divine. He acknowledges the strangeness of this term, but goes on to explain that it is through this childlike quality that the divine is able to bring meaning to his life. The divine is always present, even when he is not aware of it, and is constantly putting the pieces of his life together in a meaningful way. Jung speaks of how the divine is unpredictable and often takes away what he thought he had a hold on, but also gives unexpected gifts and blessings. This idea of the divine as both unpredictable and giving is a recurring theme throughout the chapter. Jung learned to trust in the divine and let it guide him on his path, even when the path was uncertain. The relationship between the individual and the divine is a fundamental aspect of Jung's work. He believed that the individual's journey towards the true self is inherently linked to the divine. Jung speaks of the soul as the ultimate destination and purpose of one's journey. Even the people we love are not the ultimate goal of our love, but rather symbols of their own souls. This idea emphasizes the importance of seeking the true self and understanding the deeper meaning behind our relationships. Jung also believed that the divine is present in all aspects of life, not just in religion or spirituality. He believed that the divine can be found in the everyday, in the small moments that bring meaning to our lives. This idea of the divine as present in the everyday is reflected in his concept of synchronicity, where seemingly unrelated events occur at the same time, bringing meaning and purpose to our lives. Jung highlights the importance of solitude, dreams, and the knowledge of the heart. Jung invites us to ascend to solitude, to reflect upon our dreams and recognize them as the language of our soul. Dreams are not just the result of our unconscious mind, but rather they are the unconscious manifestation of our psyche. Jung posits that we must embrace our dreams as a vital part of our soul, and explore their riddling images as we would with the words of someone we love. It is easy to dismiss dreams as foolish and ungainly, but Jung challenges us to broaden our perspective on beauty, cleverness, and foolishness. He argues that the values of the spirit of our time, the prevailing cultural norms and beliefs, may limit our understanding of the deeper truths of our soul. To truly access the wisdom of the soul, we must surpass the boundaries of the spirit of our times and engage in a deeper exploration of our dreams. Jung suggests that the language of dreams is often cryptic and difficult to understand, but dreams provide us with a guidepost for our lives, even if we don't understand their language. Dreams pave the way for us and determine our actions and decisions in ways that we may not consciously recognize. Therefore, it is essential to understand the language of dreams and how it influences our daily lives. Jung notes that scholarliness alone is not sufficient to fully comprehend the meaning of our dreams. There is a knowledge of the heart that provides us with deeper insight into the workings of our psyche. This knowledge is not found in books or within the teachings of scholars, but rather it grows within us like a seed from the dark earth. It is a knowledge that we must cultivate through deep introspection and reflection. Jung warns that the spirit of our time often fails to grasp the essence of the dream, as it is limited by its attachment to the material world. The soul is present where scholarly knowledge is not, and the knowledge of the heart provides us with a deeper understanding of our soul. Jung argues that to attain the knowledge of the heart, you must embrace all of your experiences. You cannot just live the experiences you have already had and avoid those that remain unlived. You need to be willing to live what you have left for others to live or think. Only by living your life fully and embracing all your experiences can you attain the knowledge of the heart. You may be thinking that it is impossible to live or think everything that others have lived or thought. However, Jung suggests that you should focus on living and thinking what you still can. He advises you to say, "The life that I could still live, I should live, and the thoughts that I could still think, I should think." By doing so, you can avoid fleeing from yourself and your experiences, as you cannot escape yourself. If you pretend to be blind and deaf to your experiences, you will never attain the knowledge of the heart. Jung also emphasizes that the knowledge of your heart is how your heart is. If you have a cunning heart, you will know cunning, and if you have a good heart, you will know goodness. This means that you must acknowledge both the good and evil within yourself to attain a complete understanding of yourself. You may wonder whether you should also live the evil in your heart. Jung answers this by stating that the spirit of the depths demands that you live the life that you can still live, and that well-being decides. Not just your own well-being or that of others, but only well-being. This means that you should focus on what is good for your well-being, which is not always the same as what is good for others or even yourself. Jung argues that to attain the knowledge of the heart, you must live your life fully and embrace all your experiences. You cannot escape yourself, and acknowledging the good and evil in your heart will help you gain a better understanding of yourself. Lastly, focusing on your well-being, rather than the well-being of others or yourself, is key to attaining the knowledge of the heart. Jung believed that the well-being of an individual is not only confined to their personal space but is interconnected with society. He believed that the deeper one delves into their psyche, the more they become aware of the interconnectedness of the individual and society. This is because the soul is not only confined to the individual but is also present in the collective unconscious. Jung's personal experience of living into the depths of his psyche allowed him to hear the voice of the unconscious. The depths became his teacher, revealing to him the other truth, and uniting sense and nonsense within him. He recognized that he was merely an expression and symbol of the soul. The spirit of the depths taught him extreme humility, which he realized was the most important thing he needed to learn. The experience of the spirit of the depths humbled Jung and taught him that he was only the expression and symbol of the soul. Jung's understanding of the soul as an entity that is both personal and collective was central to his philosophy. The soul, according to Jung, is not just a personal entity but is also a universal entity that transcends time and space. It is the source of creativity, inspiration, and spirituality. Jung's recognition of his role as a servant of a child was challenging for him to accept. The spirit of the time had led him to believe in his own reason and view himself as a leader with mature thoughts. However, the spirit of the depths revealed to him that he was not a leader but a servant, and that his soul was like that of a child. Initially, this idea was repugnant to Jung, and he hated it. Nonetheless, he eventually recognized and accepted that the God in his soul was like that of a child. The child in Jung's understanding is not just a symbol of innocence or vulnerability. It also represents the possibility of change, growth, and creativity. The child is not a fixed entity, but rather, it is a dynamic and evolving entity that is constantly in a state of flux. Jung's realization of his servitude to a child highlights the importance of acknowledging and embracing the child within us. We are all, to some extent, like children, and it is important to recognize that we are not all-knowing and omnipotent. Instead, We must learn to approach life with a sense of curiosity and wonder, always open to learning and growing. Jung suggests that if you are a boy, your God is a woman, and if you are a girl, your God is a boy. This statement highlights the psychological concept of the anima and animus, which are the feminine and masculine aspects within the psyche of individuals. According to Jung, the anima and animus represent the unconscious elements of an individual's personality that are the opposite of their conscious self. Therefore, a boy's God being a woman represents the unconscious feminine aspect that he needs to integrate into his conscious self. Similarly, Jung believes that if you are a man, your God is a maiden, and if you are a woman, your God is one who has given birth. Jung associates the maiden with the feminine principle of the virgin, which represents the potential for life. Similarly, he associates the idea of the mother with the feminine principle of fertility and nurturing. In this way, the idea of God becomes an archetypal representation of the unconscious. Jung also believes that the God we believe in is where we are not. Therefore, it is essential to have a God to achieve perfection in ourselves. Jung claims that we cannot fully comprehend God as it is beyond our understanding. He suggests that the idea of God is a projection of our inner self that helps us to understand and communicate with the world around us. Furthermore, Jung believes that if we are childlike beings, then our God will descend from the height of ripeness to age and death. On the other hand, if we are developed beings, having engendered or given birth in body or soul, then our God rises from the radiant cradle to the incalculable height of the future, to the maturity and fullness of the coming time. This concept suggests that our idea of God changes as we develop throughout life. In childhood, we may see God as a parental figure that controls the world around us. However, as we grow and mature, our understanding of God may become more nuanced and complex. According to Jung, those who still have their lives before them are children, and those who live life in the present are developed. Thus, if we live our lives to the fullest, we are developed beings. Jung believes that those who are children in this time, their God dies. However, those who are developed in this time, their God continues to live. This statement suggests that the idea of God evolves as we develop and mature as individuals. Jung claims that the spirit of the depths taught him that his life is encompassed by the divine child. The divine child represents the unconscious element within each of us that is continually reborn, bringing new possibilities for growth and development. Jung describes the divine child as an eternally springing youth that lives within him. This statement suggests that the divine child is a source of vitality and creativity that is always present within us. Jung begins by stating that in childish men, one can feel the hopelessness of transience. These individuals are unaware of the passage of time and the fleeting nature of life. What they see passing is yet to come for them, and they fail to recognize the human meaning behind transience. Jung explains that childishness is a state of unproductiveness, and those who remain in this state fail to engender and give birth to what is to come. Instead, they are unfruitful and what is to come for them has already withered. On the other hand, maturity is characterized by the ability to recognize transience and accept it. The mature individual understands that life is fleeting and that everything will eventually come to an end. However, this realization does not bring despair. Instead, the mature individual embraces transience and lives life to the fullest, giving birth to what is to come and ensuring that their legacy lives onward. Jung argues that in order to live onward, we must first recognize the transience of everything around us. Only by understanding that nothing lasts forever can we fully appreciate the present moment and make the most of our time on this earth. When we live our lives fully, we become fecund and give birth to what is to come. We are able to contribute to society in a meaningful way, leaving a lasting impact on the world. Jung then speaks about his God, who he describes as a child. This may seem strange at first, but it is important to understand what he means by this. Jung explains that his God is not a fully formed and mature being, but rather something that is in a state of becoming. This is a powerful idea, as it suggests that we too are capable of becoming something greater than what we are today. Jung acknowledges that the spirit of the time may incense one to mockery and scorn, but he believes that we should not make our God a man of mockery. Instead, we should mock ourselves and rise above it. We must be willing to examine ourselves and our beliefs in a critical light in order to truly grow and become better individuals. This is not an easy task, as it requires us to confront our own flaws and weaknesses. However, it is a necessary step on the path towards enlightenment. Jung goes on to say that if we have not learned these lessons from the holy books, then we should go there and drink the blood and eat the flesh of him who was mocked and tormented for our sins. This may sound gruesome, but it is a metaphor for the idea that we must fully embody the teachings of Christ in order to become one with God. We must be willing to fully embrace his nature and deny our own being apart from him. Only then can we become Christ ourselves and be of use to the coming God. Jung's words are powerful and thought-provoking, and they challenge us to examine ourselves and our beliefs in a critical light. He reminds us that spiritual growth requires us to confront our own flaws and weaknesses and that this is not an easy task. However, it is only by doing so that we can truly become Christ-like and live onward in a meaningful way. Jung asks if there is anyone among us who believes they can be spared the way of Christ. He believes that such a person is deceiving themselves to their own detriment and will end up bedded down on thorns and fire. This is a powerful metaphor for the idea that those who fail to fully embrace the teachings of Christ will suffer in the afterlife. Therefore, in order to truly understand the nature of God, one must embrace the divine child within themselves and be willing to confront the transience of life. This is a difficult task, as many people tend to cling to the familiar and resist change. But by doing so, they fail to engender and give birth to what is to come, and instead remain stagnant and unfruitful. Jung believed that his God was a child, which is why he was often mocked and scorned by the spirit of his time. But he saw this as a necessary part of the process of self-discovery and self-transformation. In order to rise above this and truly become one with the divine, one must be willing to mock oneself and deny one's own ego. This is the only way to fully embody the nature of Christ and be of use to the coming God. Jung believed that no one can be spared the way of Christ, as this way leads to what is to come. The path of Christ is one of pain and sacrifice, but it is also one of transformation and growth. Those who try to swindle their way past the pain will only deceive themselves to their own detriment, and will ultimately bed down on thorns and fire. Instead, one must embrace the pain and allow it to lead them towards a greater understanding of themselves and their place in the universe. Furthermore, Jung believed that one cannot overcome the old teachings of the past through doing less, but through doing more. Every step closer to one's soul will excite the scornful laughter of one's demons, but one must not be deterred by their taunts. Instead, one must continue to do strange and unconventional things in order to break free from the constraints of the ego and fully embrace the divine. Jung's views on the nature of God were deeply rooted in his understanding of the human psyche and the transformative power of self-discovery. He believed that by embracing the divine child within oneself, one can engender and give birth to what is to come, and live a life that is fecund and meaningful. By denying one's ego and mocking oneself, one can rise above the spirit of the times and embody the nature of Christ, and be of use to the coming God. And by embracing the pain and doing strange things, one can overcome the old teachings of the past and fully realize one's potential as a human being.